And hello, we're live, everyone. Welcome to the Extra Frightners on Saturday night. I've got a special guest and my hero, and man, am I privileged. I have the lovely, the one, the what I always call him, the gorgeous bearded man, is Jason Boyd. How you doing, Jason?
I am doing fantastic. I know it's probably pretty late where you guys are, so I'm glad you actually guys get to work with me on that one on the time zone, you know, problem there. So
Well, except for me, it's still pretty early over here.
yeah, it's 7 p.m. here. So, and what time is it where you guys are?
Just actually 12 in the morning.
Oh, geez. So, yeah.
Over here where I'm at, because I live here in Chicago, Illinois. So over here it's 6 o'clock.
Oh, okay. So you're behind me then.
Yeah, I am.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we've got 4 in the chat. If somebody says hi, please. Oh,
yep, there we go. As I would expect.
Yeah, Eric. So thanks very much for coming, Jason. Honestly, I'm like a buzzing child. So how did the horror start for you, Jason? Like, what made you get into horror? Because honestly, guys, check Jason out. He's got so many masks. I think that's what's really caught my eyes, the fact of the amount of masks you have.
Yeah, I told myself I was going to stick to just the latex and silicone, and but then they started releasing these we call them vacuum form masks, and essentially they're like half masks. They're just like there's basically just plastic, like a rubber band that goes around the back of the base of the head there, and we used to use those as kids back in the like early to mid 80s, and they had these like silly little smock things that you wore with them that had the character on them. So I guess in case if they couldn't identify by the mask you were wearing, that they had your name, your name was written on the smock. So, and I told myself I wasn't going to get those, but then they started like coming out with them, and I started like picking them up here and there. So now I've got another whole wall that's just the vacuum form masks now. I mean, there's like Dracula, the Wolfman. I think there's the Mummy here. There's the Wolfman's up there. So I got them kind of scattered out. But I honestly, I'd say my uncle probably got me into horror. I was probably about 5 years old, and I started watching. And this is, I'm probably telling my age here, but we used to have VHS tapes back in the day, and the stores used to rent VCRs, and they would let you rent videotapes. So my uncle would rent a VCR, and he would rent 5 or 6 movies, and that was what we did during the weekend. And so a Creep Show had just came out on VHS, so we sat down and watched it, and incidentally, that's kind of where I fell in love with horror. But then it also gave me a terrifying fear of roaches too. I'm sure you've probably seen the movie, and the roach scene really freaked me out. So and I just kind of blossomed from there. I just started. My grandparents had a farm and had some what we call an antenna, UHF antenna, which picked up off-air channels. And every so often, you would find a couple of like older stations that would play like classics, like Frankenstein and Dracula and them and the monster that challenged the world, 20 million years BC. So it just, 20 million miles to Earth, 1 million years BC. And so I fell in love with the black and white genre of films as well. Yep. And sometimes they would show occasionally like Friday the 13th or maybe Halloween. So I got really big into slashers, and my mom actually got me into the slashers, the Friday the 13th franchise. So I mean, it's been kind of my safe place, kind of my go-to. I mean, no matter, it seems like what I go through in life, I always kind of find solace in horror. It's always like something I always gravitate towards. And I used to read monster magazines as a kid. Well, I actually, truth be known, I actually still do read horror magazines.
Oh.
So, but that's always been something I've always like really wanted to do, was be into horror and like it actually be in films. So I was pretty excited when I had opportunities to do so, and I'm hoping maybe that I'll actually be able to get more into the genre, and maybe my ultimate goal would be to actually I would either like to play a slasher, like sort of like a Jason type character, or I would like to be in a zombie movie. I don't care if I don't care if I get killed in it or if I'm a zombie. I just think it'd be really cool to be in one.
I must admit, when my first horror movie was when I was must have been about 9 or 10 at the time, and I can remember it. It was talking about banned films, and
nasties.
And I thought, right, it would be a grand old idea to watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the 1979 version. So,
great movie.
Lois watched it and did not sleep for weeks after it because I was getting petrified. I'm going to have some guy with a chainsaw come after me. But then, see, when I seen it again, I didn't feel actually as bad. I actually really, really liked it. Out of all the Texas Chainsaw Massacres, hi Morty, hi Anthony, hi Eric. Out of all the Texas Chainsaw Massacres, I watched the 1979 one, the 2003 one, the one at the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning, and I recently watched the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the one that they recreated recently, and it was actually, I thought it was going to be pretty shit, and I was like, I'm going to like watch this and see what it's actually really like, and to my surprise, it was actually really, really good.
Yeah, it's funny because like I know they had the video nasties there in the UK, and which incidentally is actually some of my favorite films. They have blacklisted, or I guess had blacklisted at the time, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre honestly is probably one of the movies that I would say honestly scares me, in the sense that could happen. I mean, he was loosely based on a few serial killers here in the States. Yeah, and so I mean, that kind of stuff happens. So that's what really makes that one scary. I mean, as many people that are afraid of Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees, and those guys are, they're indestructible. They're fantasy. Like, I mean, you shoot somebody, they're more likely going to die. But but I mean, the fact that somebody, like, I would say an inbred family that lives out in the middle of nowhere that you'd happen to stumble across, that can put you on meat hooks and chop you up and put you in a freezer. Yeah, that stuff happens, and that's kind of scary. So, if I had to say that was one that would bother me, it would be that one. But I mean, back, and it's funny, the video nasties portion of things. Like, I remember when I was a kid, which, I don't get me wrong, I'm very thankful for the digital age. I'm thankful for streaming, and I can find any movie I want at my fingertips now. But there was something about when I was a teenager, the thrill of the hunt, as I call it, and finding these movies and going to these like really seedy parts of town, and like in these like weird underground like areas and stuff, to find these movies, and like Zombie 2 and I Spit on Your Grave, and
oh god,
I mean, all these like classic, like really like Last House on the Left. These movies were impossible to find at video stores, just probably because of their brutality. So I would go to these places like that. Like, it looks like it's the kind of place looking you might actually like get shot, or maybe catch some form of hepatitis being in the area. But I found a lot of great VHS tapes there. And I paid $40-$50 for them at the time. And, so that's where I got exposed to a lot more of the grindhouse and like the exploitation films, I guess at that point in time. because this stuff was like impossible to find in my area or really anywhere remotely close.
Okay. I'm just going to run through some of the comments. Eric says it's midnight here. So that's your mummies or the mum?
Of course.
Of course. Eric, yeah, when I was young, they had beta. Then Anthony saying, then take it, you would not watch Joe's apartment.
What is that?
Yeah, honestly, I haven't watched it, but not just for that reason. But there was a couple of movies that they released. One was called Creepy Crawlies, and
oh God,
it was about these mutant roaches that could set people on fire.
Oh my God.
I'm not exactly sure how that works, but yeah, somehow they could like superheat themselves and they could like catch things on fire. And there was one called The Nest. It was about mutant cockroaches that were like almost man-sized, you know.
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
I'm laughing because Nick's got a huge fairy coat.
Yeah, I was about to say, Jason, you're not the only one who's afraid of roaches. So am I.
And it's funny because, you know, they're like, you know, I'm not afraid of bats or rats or snakes or spiders. Like, none of that stuff bothers me.
No.
Me too.
But then my friends are like, dude, you're like this big, like, bearded mohawk guy, and you're like, you know, you listen to punk, but you're afraid of roaches, like the smallest, like. I'm like, yeah, it's like because they're disgusting. They carry all kinds of like diseases. And I've tortured myself to watch these videos where they crawl in people's ears and they have to flush them out, you know. So yeah,
do you know
that? Ugh.
Yeah,
do you know what? Right? On you go, honey.
I'm like it's like the same thing. It's like I don't have a problem with everything else. It's just the roaches I got a problem with. Especially ones I fear the most are the hissing ones.
I must admit, right? I can deal with roaches. I can deal with spiders. I could deal with anything but snakes. Oh no, I've got a huge phobia. And the day he was sitting watching stuff on YouTube and fucking it was some guy making something and I just happened to look at the wrong time and there was a python sitting on his work desk and I nearly went through the ceiling. Literally. So I was sitting here and I was just, oh, what's he making? And it was just out the corner of my eye and there's a python. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And signs like that. It's so bad, right? You're going to laugh at me, but it's actually so bad to the point of where, like, anything that's like clothing that looks like snake skin, like anything like a purse, the full shebang sets me off. I don't know where I've got this phobia from. Oh no.
So
you're fine, Eric.
So I'll make you a deal. We'll watch Halloween 3 together because it's got snakes and roaches and stuff in it. So
well, yeah. Can I just say I'll take you up in that offer as long as I can cuddle into you.
Watch
they got the worst. They got the worst of the worst on there. Roaches and like.
I actually have watched the snakes in plane.
Centipedes and all that crazy stuff. So yeah.
I can handle it. I actually watched Snakes in the Plane because what happened was years ago I dated a guy and I made him watch a horror. So in revenge he said, well, since that sorry, my cat's jumping up. Since like you watched the horror, then you need to watch Snakes in the Plane. And I thought, right, okay, I can do this. So Lois picked up the big girl pants and she was like, right, let's go. So I sat there and I said to myself, it's just a film, it's just a film, it's just a film. And then the snakes were coming everywhere and I could feel my skin start to crawl. And I'm like, Lois will show not fear. So I was sitting there and I'm watching it. Then wait to tell you, right? So got to the point where the ceiling broke and the big anaconda came in. Well, there was me. I screamed in the middle of the cinema, screaming my head out. I was like, oh my God. And I ran out of the cinema. I was like, I can't do this. It was just Oh, even talking about it there, I can feel like oh no, just no.
So, I'll give you a assignment. Watch this movie. It's called like a snake. It's actually SSSS, like a snake
Yes,
sound.
yeah, it's from the
And
early
it's about this
19s.
guy that actually mutates people into snakes. He turns them like these weird snake hybrid people. So watch
Oh
that one.
no.
Yeah, it's from the early 1970s. It's an older
Yeah.
film.
You guys, I used to like you guys, but now I just don't like you.
Wait till next week when me and Nick are turning up with snakes around our neck.
You dare, I swear, I would be on that fucking show.
I wish my reptile was actually I have a reptile mask from one of the Hammer films, so I wish it was within reach, but it's supposed to be a snake woman, or I guess a woman snake type creature, so it's pretty
Oh,
scary looking actually. So
oh my
but
god.
I would say the movie that I really guess bothered or I would say scared me as a kid was probably Night of the Living Dead.
Yes.
Just
In fact,
because
somebody mentioned that in the chat. Somebody did say, I think it was Eric that actually said about the Night of the Living Dead. Yes, it was Eric. He said about the Night of the Living Dead.
yeah, and what was really like, well, I guess what was so scary about it, I was probably maybe 7 years old, I guess, when I watched it, and at that point in time, the house that we lived in, the living room, pretty much one whole corner of the living room was from floor to ceiling windows, like, and they all like butted up next to each other. So it was basically like just like one gigantic window to the front. So as I'm watching this, and the zombies are like busting through the glass and they're like knocking the boards off the windows, and I'm thinking, oh my God, like if this really happened, like how would we defend ourselves? Because we got one whole room that's nothing but basically glass that they could just walk right through. Yeah, and that's just one of those kid things, I'm thinking, obviously that, zombies unfortunately would never happen, but
Hey, Kelly.
yeah, it really it scared me. I mean, I had nightmares about it because I'm like there's no way to defend yourself against this. Like you can't board up glass, they're just going to walk right through it. So, but yeah, that's kind of where I fell in love with the Romero universe. And, I still, I used to collect comic books, like superhero stuff and just kind of whatever, but I eventually had to stop collecting because I got close to like 7,000.
Oh,
So
wow.
as of now, I just collect horror comics and mostly zombie comics because they've released some Night of the Living Dead comics and Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead, and they've got variant offshoot comics of that. So I still collect those, and I love reading those because they expand more on the universe. Like you actually get to see like what's going on in the rest of the world, or like even the Prelude comics that explains Night of the Living Dead before it actually happened. They it shows what Harry and his wife, the car being overturned and Karen getting bit. Shows Ben at the diner and the truck driver on fire, and so it was just really really cool to actually see this. I mean, obviously couldn't do it in the movie, so they've drawn it out so you can actually make your own conclusions and visuals and things. It's really really cool. And they even did a UK edition called God Save the Queen, where the zombie, the whatever happened, I guess I'm assuming virus, they never really just say, but somebody gets on a plane that gets infected, and then she turns and kills everybody on the plane. And then when the plane lands in England, of course the whole plane is zombies, so they take over the UK and then start sweeping across Europe. So basically, the royal family is the only ones that really left alive in England, and they're barricaded in the palace. It was a really really cool morbid read if you ever get a chance to pick it up.
That actually sounds really cool.
I've actually heard about like the comics they've made for like Night of the Living Dead. I actually went to go see like the 50th anniversary screening of it at an AMC theater a few years ago. And that was what they were promoting for the comics, which I loved how the art they put in, they kept the black and white And I mean, it was unbelievable seeing how those comics looked.
I really think that might still be due to the whole Comics Code of Authority, where they back in the 60s and 70s they released the the Tales from the Crypt and the Vault of Horror and Tales of Mystery, the horror comics, and obviously there was a lot of blood, a lot of people getting murdered and things in it. So the Comics Code of Authority said, okay, you can make these comics, but you have to make them in black and white. So I don't know if that's still a thing, because I mean, I honestly, I think they would look great in color. But you're right. I think the black and white really adds aesthetic to the comic and to the, it feels like you're still, like you're in the movie and engrossed into it. So I prefer the black and white, but I mean, I've seen the colorized versions of Night of the Living Dead, and I even have the original Hal Roach Studios colorized version on VHS. I got, back in like 1988, I think. So where it's at, I don't know, but when I moved, I unfortunately I have stuff scattered, all different kinds of places. So, but I don't know too many folks that have that one. And I've also got an edition called the Survivor's Cut, which, as far as I know, I'm the only person I know in existence that has that copy. And it was a fan made project. More or less, it was just extra. It was extra. It was stock footage that was added into the original movie to make it appear longer and to make some scenes make more sense. But I have a lot of people that are like offered a lot of money to get it. I'm like, you're not missing much. It's not really that good of a copy. It's just a fan made film, I guess. So,
Anthony says, fun fact: the human body may make its own maggots after body dies. Hey Kelly, Eric says, I like old 3D horror movies. Kelly's from Australia. Anthony says, wonder why we made safety glass so that it will stop zombies. Eric says, oh, I missed the Crypt TV show. Hiya Kelly, I'm good.
Hey, Kelly.
Love Tales from the Crypt. Yep, it was good. So how many masks do you actually own, Jason?
I think at one point in time, I think I counted around 200, but now, of course, I've acquired some since then. So I've got some. I got some pretty rare ones. One of my crowning achievements, I actually found one of the hideous sun demon, and it's actually cast from one of the molds from the original mask from 1957, I think, when the movie was made. So it actually is one of the it's actually cast from one of the original molds from that. And I have the Terror from Beyond Outer Space that I haven't yet to finish. It was actually a raw pull that somebody had made. And I want to say Dr. Lady had made that one. And somehow I stumbled across it on eBay, and I got it for a steal. So the guy apparently was actually going to make an actual costume out of it, but then got halfway through the process and stopped doing it. So it's been sitting on my shelf. I'm trying to actually find photos of what the actual original costume looked like in color, because I actually want to paint the mask to match what the actual creature looked like in the movie. So, but yeah, I would say probably I'd say close to 200, give or take. I mean, unfortunately, some of them didn't. When I moved the last time, some of them didn't survive the move. So, they were in pretty bad shape, and pretty much now I focus on like classic horror monsters. Trick or Treat Studios released Glenn Strange, Frankenstein, Lon Chaney's Wolfman, and I think they did The Mummy, I believe, Boris Karloff, Frankenstein. So, and they actually started doing Hammer films. They've done Christopher Lee's Dracula and Frankenstein. So that was really cool, because I actually scored I guess I don't know if this is a UK store. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is there a place called Smithy's in the UK? Okay. So somehow I came across 3 Hammer Films masks. of the Curse of the Werewolf and the Frankenstein and Dracula from Christopher Lee. And the tags, I don't say Smithies, but I wasn't 100% sure. Like I was like, we don't have anything like that stateside, so I kind of wondered where they came from. But I bought a big box full of masks from a guy, and those 3 were in there, and that was my opinion. That was worth getting that entire box, even if I didn't like anything else in it. Was just those 3 masks.
Anthony's asking, who is the best actor or actress of horror movie you enjoy? I might as well just give it to everybody. So, who wants to start? Who's our favourite best actor or actress?
Oh dear.
I'm kind of a sucker for old school stuff. Like I love Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff, Basil Rathbone. A big Vincent Price fan, big Christopher Lee fan. And a friend of mine actually got me into the Hammer films, and I was, I really didn't understand them when I was younger. But then after I got older, I didn't realize how brilliant they were, and so I became a big Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee fan, and yeah. So I mean, some of my favorite movies are Hammer films, but I would say if I had to pick somebody that I actually am very partial to, is probably Vincent Price, just because he's such a really good method actor, and he's he plays a great villain. He plays a great like House on Haunted Hill is one of my all-time favorite movies. Just the plot twist in it and everything it's fantastic.
He's a true legend.
And
What about you two? Well, we'll start with Ian because you've been off a quiet and it's not like you.
well, they it's funny because I like the House on Haunted Hill. I wish I was alive for these whenever the movies that were directed by William Castle. He had gimmicks that went with these movies, and like I think on House on Haunted Hill, they had skeletons that would drop from the ceiling.
Yep.
I think on the Tingler, they had the seats were rigged up to vibrate the back of your neck.
They were like buzzers that were leftovers from World War II.
Yeah, and the 13 Ghosts. The original 13 Ghosts actually had glasses that you had to wear, to specialized glasses you could see the ghosts, which is funny because that was a gimmick they put in the remake of 13 Ghosts, was that the actors in the movie had to wear these specialized glasses to see the ghosts. So, I thought that was really clever because, that was originally a gimmick from William Castle. He did another one too. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but he did so many. Like he was really an awesome director in the sense that he actually engaged the audience in more ways than one.
I think the other one you missed. There's 2 of them actually that he also did gimmicks on. There was also Mr. Sardonicus with the punishment pole that gave people the decision whether Mr. Sardonicus should be punished or live. They would have like those glow in the dark cards.
Yes.
And they claimed that they filmed 2 endings, but supposedly the other ending has never been revealed. And then the other gimmick he did was for the movie Homicidal, where it gave like that fright break or something that gave the viewer the decision whether they wanted to leave the theater or not before the ending of that movie.
Yeah, that.
Sorry to interrupt. But I've just noticed something. I just want to thank whoever it was that's just gave us 50 stars.
Oh wow!
I've never actually ever seen that in any of my life, so I'm quite taken aback with that. Actually,
it's this feature that's sometimes featured on like some of the broadcasts where you could send like a whole bunch of stars, like anywhere between like it's like 25 to maybe like 1,000 stars or something like that. Because I think there's like a custom, like you could like send as many as you want. So it doesn't really actually do anything, but it's just something that you send out.
It's just like when I said that, and I was like, thought I was seeing things. I need to rub real eyes up at the specs on.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm thrilled if somebody gives me 50 stars. I mean, that's 50 stars I didn't have. So, hey, I appreciate that. So,
excuse me.
I know it was like kind of like.
It's funny. I'll say you mentioned Mr. Sardonicus. I actually have a Mr. Sardonicus mask. I'm trying to find it.
I didn't know a mask of him would even exist.
It was a custom job that I think I acquired around the same time that I got one of the other ones that I have, and I'm trying to see where it's obviously an unfinished product, and I have to. That's another one I'm gonna have to paint, and I have to actually punch hair into that one, so that's going to be fun. But yeah, no, it's definitely a custom job, and I wish I could find it. I would love to show you guys on camera, but I don't know where it is, and I'm trying to look and see if it catches my eye somewhere. But yeah, I will have to actually get that and maybe tag it on the show here. But yeah, I've actually got the I guess Martian, or I guess the space monster from Frankenstein versus the Space Monster. Comes with gloves and everything. It's really cool. But yeah, it's just there's I didn't really realize when I got into collecting masks that I would just get this like rabbit hole with them. I mean, just because there's so many different types and so many different manufacturers, and I really wished I would have started collecting when I was a kid. I mean, I had a couple, but I obviously didn't take care of them because, I mean, when you're a kid, you don't really think about, if these would be worth anything to anybody later on. And but I managed to snag a couple of old Don posts from the 80s and 90s, and I actually have a one that's it's actually called Prickle Puss. And it's a really hard mask to find that's still intact. This one's actually in like perfect condition. The cloth is very clean. It has a cloth backing to it. It's very clean. It's very, just very well shaped. And I think I paid $20 for it. So, and that was like on eBay, you can find these particular masks going for $200, and it looks like the dog chewed them. So, I mean, I'm not exactly sure how I managed to score that, but I was ever so thankful.
Wow.
But I mean, I love the horror section. It's always been my favourite section is horror. I like horrors, thrillers, action. I hate chick flicks and I hate romantic films. My idea of a date is watching horror movies. That's it.
I gotta ask, by the way, because this is coming out real soon. Jason, what do you think about? How do you feel right now about that upcoming Stephen King film, The Boogeyman, that's coming out soon?
I haven't really heard much about it. I do remember though there was a short story written about the Boogeyman. And the only reason why I remember this is because the cover of the book terrified me as a kid. But it was called The Woman in the Room and the Boogeyman. And I didn't realize this until later on. They actually did I guess like it was a full-length feature, but both the stories were, it was like a 2-part type thing. And they were truly eerie. Like the cover of the book, which would freak me out so bad, was it was a closet door, and there's a woman halfway coming out of it, like she's jumping through it like a specter, and it just freaked me out because it looks so weird. And so I actually ended up trying to find these movies. I want to say I remember watching them as a kid. That's the only reason why I remember what this whole thing. And again, there was, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe The Boogeyman was about a guy that he was married and had kids, and the kids were screaming in the middle of the night that there was something after them. And of course, he chalked it up as, it's just kids' overactive imagination. It's just whatever, like it's not a big deal. Well, then come to find out there actually was a boogeyman that was coming out and killing his kids. And he ends up getting remarried, and he has more kids and moves to a different city, and the same thing happens again. But then you find out he's telling a therapist all of this, and the therapist actually ends up being the boogeyman. So I thought it was really cool. I'm not exactly sure if that's the same. If it's that, he's just expanding on that, because I think several of his full length features were I think originally short stories. Like I think Maximum Overdrive may have been a short story, I believe.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, I think that's what this, I'm not sure what the whole deal is like with this movie adaptation of The Boogeyman. But I will say, though, I mean, the way how you kind of describe the original story, it actually kind of reminded me of another movie that kind of had a very similar plot. And that was, came out in the 80s. It was that movie, The Stepfather, because it was the same, a similar storytelling of a guy who would just marry one family, kill them, clean himself up, and then go marry another family and do the exact same thing. It was typically a slasher movie.
Yeah, I think I remember they came out with a couple of sequels too after that, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
There were like 2 or 3 films.
Yeah, there was
after
like
that
3
one.
or 4 of them, and I think even a mini series I think was even made for it.
Okay, yeah. I want to say I have seen the first 2, but I don't think I want to say I thought there was 4 of them, but don't hold me to that. But I think I did see the first 2. I do remember the basic plot. Like, well, I mean, essentially the plot is almost similar, except that the dad's not doing the killing. It really is. There is something living in the closet that's killing the people, or killing the kids. But yeah, that one really creeped me out as a kid. And like I said, the short story itself creeped me out just because, because of the cover. But I mean, to me, Stephen King films are kind of hit or miss. Like I love Maximum Overdrive, and I liked Cell. Well, except the ending. The ending didn't make any sense to me. I like The Mist. Mist was a really good one.
Oh, yeah.
That's a brilliant film. Absolutely brilliant film.
Great movie.
Yeah, and
kind of like
the ending. Well, I'm
Dead.
glad they reshot the ending too, because I mean the original ending kind of pissed me off. But so I'm glad they actually did an alternate ending on that one, where which I think it's on the DVD. You can actually see the alternate ending. So, and I'm not going to spoil it for anybody that's not seen it, but if you haven't seen The Mist, yeah, go check it out. But
I've seen The Mist, but I have not seen that alternate ending. So the one you were to say that pissed you off, that was the one I seen. I still need to see that alternate ending one, which I heard is far more satisfying.
Yeah, you know what? I was quite disappointed because it was kind of like at the end, I thought to myself, that tends some balls to do that, but then when you realise that you didn't need to do it after all.
Yeah.
Well, that's why that I'm glad they shot that other ending. So if you watch the other ending, then you're like, okay, then it kind of closes things and it makes you feel better about everything. But like the Cell was actually an interesting concept, and I want to say it sounds loosely based on another movie I remember back in, it was like the mid 2000s. I think it was called Pulsed or something like that. But essentially it's about like electronics cause people to go crazy and they start attacking each other, and like it's sort of a mix up between like Mayhem and The Cell, and it's its own movie. It's really good. And it keeps you on the edge of your seat because there's some people that aren't affected by whatever is causing the problem here, and so they're trying to escape the city, and there's everybody's going crazy, and they're killing each other, and so The Cell kind of reminded me a little bit of this movie, but the ending was just like it was awful. Like I don't know, I really don't know what happened, and I hope maybe somebody that's seen it can elaborate on it, maybe. I did try reading the book, and I just couldn't get it in the book either because I couldn't figure out the characters, because it was like red shirt guy, blue pantsuit woman, pink jogging suit woman, and it was like none of the characters had names, so it was hard for me to keep up with who was doing what exactly. But I thought the premise of it actually was really cool. I mean, how we're addicted to our cell phones, and we're addicted to our technology, and that ends up being, our downfall. Whatever is going on, it's through communication. So we're, everybody these days has a cell phone. So that's what makes that scary. Even though something like that probably couldn't happen, but
I did grow a beard. Don't I look sexy for it?
It's a quick shave.
Oh no, that's why I had to run. I was like that. I need to shave my beard though. No, that's a picture of Jeremy York. He's one of the networks that I'm on. He is the owner of. So I wonder where Notorious N.I.C.K. is away to.
He's off in the woods. But there you
He's
go.
away with that girlfriend, I'll tell you.
I expect
Um,
Stephen King wise, the first Stephen King thing that ever impressed me was Salem's Lot. And then a mini TV series.
I like Carrie, and I liked Firestarter. Was actually pretty good. Christine was good. I wasn't much on the Langoliers or Tommy Knockers. I thought Thinner was actually Thinner was interesting.
Yeah.
Pet Cemetery was good. And
Misery was really good. That was one of my favourites. Was Misery. That was really good.
Nick of You.
I mean, Maximum Overdrive was probably one of my favorites as a kid. I remember reading that, watching it, and being completely amazed. I'm like, I'm gonna watch it again. So I literally watched it right after I just got finished watching it again, just because I just thought it was so cool to, just the soundtrack, the killer trucks or killer electronics and all that, which again is scary. It's one of those apocalyptic things, and kind of along the same vein as Night of the Comet, where I think that's actually what caused the machines to go crazy was a comet, some kind of dust or space dust or something. So, but I'm big on the apocalyptic type scenarios and things, which when I usually read like novels and things, it's generally like post-apocalyptic or events leading up to an apocalypse and then what happens after. There was an author I'm actually friends with, David Moody. He did the Autumn series, which was a really cool take on the zombie genre. If you ever have a chance to read it, and it's like the zombie, like it's basically everybody's drops. Well, I say everybody, most people drop dead, and nobody knows why. Nobody knows what happened. They just die, and well, a few days later they reanimate, and they're walking around. They don't seem to bother anybody. They don't like eat people or anything. They just kind of mill about, and you think, okay, that's really weird. But then later on in the books, as he wrote several, other books past that point, the zombies eventually get more aggressive. They actually start, I guess, lose their humanity. I guess their brain starts dying or whatever, and they become more feral. So that was a great read. If you're into books and things, that's definitely a great read. Brian Keene's got some really cool books, and his books are definitely like very Stephen King-ish in the sense that you see the ending and you're like, well, that sucks. It's a great story, but the ending is, you're kind of like, like all this, you get a bond with these characters and you're hoping everything's going to work out for them. And then you get to the ending and you're like, well, that sucks. Like now I have to go find something else to read.
No. Do you know what? What I've heard is I love watching the film Shawshank Redemption, and they say that the book's actually better than the film.
I would say there's generally, yeah, I'm one of those kind of guys that I would be like, I think the book's better than the movie, but every once in a blue moon, there's usually I might find a movie that might be better than the book, and one of those cases is actually one of my favorite films and one of my favorite books. It's based on the book I Am Legend by Richard Matheson.
Oh,
and it's one of my all-time favorite books. And then they have the Last Man on Earth, which has got Vincent Price in it. In my humble opinion, I think the ending to the movie was way better than the book. Now the Omega Man, which is loosely based off of I Am Legend, actually did kind of go more along the same lines as the book, as far as the ending part of it. But yeah, Last Man on Earth was like fantastic, and I didn't really watch that until like a few years ago. Like I didn't even know it existed, and which is really strange, being that I'm such a big Night of the Living Dead fan, and George Romero actually based Night of the Living Dead, what the ghouls, off of Richard Matheson's, I Am Legend, just more or less through description. And then whenever they released the Last Man on Earth, the ghouls they definitely resemble Romero's. They're very humanoid in appearance. Like they look fairly normal. They wear clothes, kind of tattered, very pale looking. So, and after watching that movie, I was like, okay, I could see where Night of the Living Dead took a lot of influence from this movie, but it's great. But Vincent Price really, really nails it. And I do like Omega Man. The Will Smith version I wasn't crazy about. And I like Will Smith as far as, like, I think his portrayal of Robert Neville was great. But the whole, like, the monsters and just everything was just terrible. Like, I mean, I really wish they could have done more with that movie and really made it into something fantastic. But
yeah, that's the thing, because the difference in the book is I actually read that book back when I was in high school. So the difference about and I read it right around the time when the movie came out, and you see almost a difference, like, for the infected humans, because in the book they're vampires, and then in the movie version they're these like ghoul-like entities of some sort. Like, I don't even know really what to call them. Just kind of like,
yeah, the remake they did with Will Smith, I don't know really what the hell they're supposed to be. I mean, I guess
really
there's infected
vampires.
humans. I mean, they really don't really. I mean, I guess they are vampires of sorts, but the ones in The Last Man on Earth are more like traditional ghouls, or I mean, they drink blood, but they are more ghouls, like ghoulish. They are very pale, not very coordinated. They can use rudimentary tools and things. So, and I wish they'd taken that formula and modernized it with Will Smith, because I mean, like, so Will Smith nailed it as far as his level of crazy throughout the movie, how he starts slowly succumbing to the madness. And if they had done, I heard rumors they're making a part 2.
Oh, they are?
So,
really?
I don't know. I mean, I don't remember where I saw that at, but I just remember they said something about they were doing a green light for part 2. So I'm kind of anxious to see how that's going to turn out. If they'll maybe do something with the monsters in it, make them look a little bit more, not as crappy CG or whatever they try to do with them.
Mm-hmm. I must admit, my dad shouted at me because him and his ex-fiance wanted to go to cinema, and they said, "What's a good movie?" Now, they weren't very specific on what they meant. What's a good movie to go and watch? I was like, oh, I Am Legend. Sent my dad in with his ex-fiance, and she nearly died off because she was like, oh my god, like she wouldn't watch most of it. My dad went, you bastard. And I went, what? You told me I Am Legend was a good film. I said, aye. Aye, but you didn't tell me it was a fucking horror. And I was like,
yeah.
You didn't ask what type of movie. You didn't say what type of movie is I Am Legend. You just took what I said as gospel and you just went and watched it. Not my problem.
I just want to say you guys are right. As of March of last year, a sequel has been officially announced that's in development.
Oh, wow.
Will Smith is reprising his role along with Michael B. Jordan. They're both producing. So they say the film will take place after its predecessor's alternate ending rather than the original.
Yeah, I kind of figured that's probably what they were. I like I said, I remember vaguely something about they were going to try to use the alternate ending as to feed into the next film. So, but I really hope they actually, like I said, Will Smith really nailed it. I really hope that they fix the monsters in this one and give it, give them the respect they deserve. Because I mean, like I said, I was just so upset when I saw it. The first one come out, I'm like, what the hell is this? Like this sucks. This doesn't look like anything remotely human. Which I mean, obviously they're not supposed to look human, but I mean, human in the sense that like the CG was so bad, like they just looked so fake and out of place, you know.
And another difference between the book and the movie, too, if you think about it, is that in the book, in the movie, they have a leader. In the book, there is no leader of this vampire clan. It just, I just wasn't crazy about it because I was expecting to see what I was going to read from the book, and I was the same thing because again, I just read the book, and I was like the same way. I was like, what the hell is this? Because in the book, they were still like intelligent human beings, but they were vampires. But in the book, they were like animalistic.
Well, they did have I guess a smart one, Ben Cortman, who I think his brother-in-law. I think in the book. Now he retained a lot more intelligence than most of them for some reason, but. So it was funny because he actually could speak in rudimentary ways, but I was thinking as far as that goes, they could have actually easily done something with like 28 days later, for instance, like 28 like the infected in 28 days later looked phenomenal, and they're simple, like they're very simplistic, and the way they did the cameras and the motion blur was great. And I wish they had done something like that with I Am Legend. They could have kept it really simple because like the 28 days later and stuff and 28 weeks later, it was just like they were scary. Like, the red eyes, the blood, and just the way they did the shaky camera and the blur, it seemed very claustrophobic and very suspenseful just by the camera work alone. And I think they could have really done something with I Am Legend with that, just by doing a few, buying some contacts, fake blood, a few lacerations, kind of make them, muss up the hair. They could have made them really scary and kept it simple.
It's like I Am Legend could have been like the US's answer to 28 days and weeks later. Like it would be like almost their own version, the American version of 28 days later.
Right. And, I mean, like, and those kind of movies, like I said, were really like just absolutely terrifying. Like you got, like the remake of Dawn of the Dead, the Fast Zombies, Train to Busan was great. Like, I mean, that was a killer film. I can't say much of the sequel, but the original, the Train to Busan was really great, but I didn't care a lot for Peninsula. And I kind of feel like that, Army of the Dead kind of ripped off Peninsula with, or whichever one came out. Somebody ripped off somebody because the premise is almost exactly the same. But the Fast Zombies work. I mean, which I think Return of the Living Dead kind of touched upon that.
Yep. I knew you were going to bring that one up.
Yeah. The fast, indestructible zombies are like, that's like every zombie fan's like worst nightmare. I mean, like how would you stop them? You've only got so much acid and flamethrowers that you could actually use against these things, but they're going to get you in the end. So
I must admit, I heard they're bringing out a 28 days. It's going to be 28 months later.
Yeah, they said they were making a third.
Because I watched that. Because I like to watch movie trailers and things like that, and I actually thought they had brought out a movie trailer, and obviously I was watching it and I got told no, it's no 28 months later, that's Doomsday. And I was like, oh, there's a film that I never seen, and I watched Doomsday, but I couldn't get into it. I just couldn't, no matter how much I had tried. See, it looked good on the trailer, but see, when I actually sat and watched it, was not my kind of film.
Yeah, like so the 20 I've heard rumors they were talking about 28 months later, but I didn't know if it was actually confirmed. But yeah, I mean, I would personally love to see them do a 28 months later, because they kind of backtracked a little bit, because the first movie you actually hear the gal that's in, that he meets in the beginning say that, France was overrun, and that they even heard rumors that New York was overrun.
Yeah, it was like a worldwide
Yeah.
disaster.
But in part two, it was pretty much just London was, it was contained in London, and that was it. Like, so I don't know if, again, she was just hearing rumors that it happened in other places, or, like which was it? I mean, did it spread throughout, globally, or, did it get contained in London and it was just hearsay that, so that's where I'm hoping maybe 28 months later we'll actually, maybe shed some light on that, because, they had there was another outbreak again. So,
yeah. Well, they're even saying that there even is a possibility that if this movie is a success, they were even talking about making a fourth one, which of course I'm sure you guys would know will come after months. Obviously, it would obviously be called 28 years later. So, like, showing how long that the outbreak has been going on. So, I'd be kind of curious, not only for 28 months, but eventually if they decide to proceed with it 28 years later.
Well, I don't know. In the UK, it might be 28 fortnights later.
And the other thing you have to remember about those movies, because some people tend to forget, is that they're not even really zombies. They're just infected. They're half dead people.
See, Eric says there could have been a lot with 28 days. They could have done 28 seconds, 28 minutes. Eric.
Yeah,
I'm going to be really honest, right? I actually really liked 28 Days Later in Weeks 1. No, what gets me, right, is, and I've often said this, is I've watched different films, right, and their take on zombies. And, like, I like World War Z. Is it World War Z?
Yeah.
I like World War Z. And I think I look at their zombies compared to 28 Days Later. Then I watched the trailer for the Dawn of the Dead, the original one, and I'm like, my God, they look all so different. Like, their intakes of what zombies would look like. I usually say I'm a zombie after my medication in the morning, but nothing compared to.
And that's the thing, is like the British have got so many really cool zombie films out there. Like, some of my favorites are probably from the UK, like Breakfast at Manchester Morgue. That's like, I love the premise of that movie. And have you guys seen that one by chance?
I haven't seen that one yet.
It's got several different names. There's Let Sleeping Corpses Lie.
Yeah,
The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue. Like, there's all kinds of different names, but it's basically about this couple that, well, they're not really a couple, but they just happen to bump into each other through accident, and they end up traveling together. And I guess it's like the British equivalent of the Department of Agriculture. They have this weird machine that does these ultrasonic rays, and it's supposed to, like, turn parasites. They're supposed to turn against each other and kill each other. So, obviously helps the crops grow, those eliminates parasites. Well, the radiation, or whatever, the ultrasonic waves, whatever it is, also affects things with I guess you'd say a minuscule central nervous system, like insects, but it also affects dead bodies and causes them to reanimate. And so it's got elements of Night of the Living Dead in there. And it's really just a really cool film. And then you find out later on that it affects babies. So, like, babies are, like, clawing and, like, scratching and biting people and stuff. It's just a really creepy movie. And you can tell by the music and things they use in it. It's just so eerie, so creepy. And, like, I've watched the movie a dozen times, and I didn't realize that the beginning scene with Guthrie, as they call him, he's the homeless tramp that had fell in the water and drowned. Well, all of a sudden he's walking around, and people can't understand why. And he's a reanimated corpse, and when he's going after the girl, somebody is taking like a piece of metal and they're like making this sound with it. I've watched it a dozen times. I didn't realize that's what that was. I'm like, this sounds terrifying. And it works great in conjunction with the zombie like reaching through the windows and trying to grab her and everything. And I'm like, that is so neat. That's so effective because it's just a piece of metal that somebody's, just moving back and forth. It's like brilliant work. And Plague of the Zombies, from Hammer, was a great movie. There was the 28 Days Later. Shaun of the Dead's probably one of my all-time favorite movies.
Great movie.
I absolutely love Nick Frost. Oh my god! I've actually watched Shaun of the Dead, and I like him and Sean Pegg together, especially in Paul and 28 Days. 28 Days Later, because we were speaking about that. Shaun of the Dead, and the Hot Fuzz. What makes me laugh about Hot Fuzz is when they try and Sean Pegg runs and jumps the fences and clears it, and Nick Frost goes behind them and falls there each one of them. That's what I love about it. Plus, as well, what I like about Nick Frost was he done a paranormal TV series, and I thought I'll check this out, and it was really, really good. And I thought, do you know what? He just plays it well.
Do you know they based their characters on my friends Dale and Justin from Paranormal Truth?
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
really?
wow, did he?
If you look at the picture of them together in it, they look exactly like the.
Oh, wow.
That's quite an honor. So.
Yeah, it was. It was funny when they realised they're mimicking us.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I want to say that I think it was Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg, I believe, made cameos in George Romero's Land of the Dead.
I believe so.
They played zombies in it. They were getting shot by paintballs in the club.
That is so. I went to paintball once and I had a ball, but oh my god, that was so. And the bruises I walked away with was unreal.
Especially down this way, they put them in the freezer the night before.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, that would suck.
That hurts.
I got to bring this up since we were talking about movies like in this case from the UK. In addition, obviously for horror films made in the UK, and this is just my personal opinion, but honestly, I think right now the only people who are like making real horror films as of right now, as they have for many years, are the Asian horror films, the Japanese horror films. They are just so unbelievably terrifying.
I must admit, I love what I've found myself recently getting into is B movies and found footage. My favourite found footage films is fear footage. There's 3 stages to it, and it's set in, I always pronounce this so wrong, so please excuse me, guys. Is it Maryland? Maryland,
Oh, okay.
right? At a place called Dark Bluff, and it's like all different sort of horror, like in found footage, but it's so fucked up, but it's so good at the same time. So I've watched like 1, 2, and 3, and by the time I got to the third one, it didn't dawn on me, because basically what it does is it takes people that are in these clips and they don't know basically they're in, and it's this one guy in the second one who was in the first one that says that's not me that was in that, and he goes and traces another guy. But then it comes to the third one, and it's like one of the bloggers that's making like the film, and basically I couldn't work out like how he fit in, and it turns out it was the second guy, him and his pal and another pal were in the car and they smacked the dude. So basically, if you're in that film, you're basically locked into this place, and it's like dead creepy, but it's really, really good. I love found footage.
Yeah, I think that's what I like about George Romero's Diary of the Dead, which I think it got a lot of hate, but honestly I liked it. I mean, I thought it was pretty clever for for what it was, and yeah, I mean the found footage stuff. It was kind of catching on there for a while with the Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity. I believe was classified, sort of found footage, and it was becoming kind of a thing there for a while, and it's funny because there's when I got into doing movies and stuff, it was like there's trends, and at that point in time, the first movie I was in, sharks were a thing. Yeah, like there was shark Exorcist, there were sharks on the toilet. House shark.
Sharknado.
Yeah. Of course, Sharknado, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm just like, okay, how's that scary? I mean, like, if you don't live near an ocean, sharks are like the least threat of any other animal out there. Like, like where I live, you'd have more risk to get killed by a cow than you would a shark. But yeah, I mean, the distributors like, well, we want, the fans want sharks. They want shark movies. So we're kind of like, okay, so we made a shark movie, and of course we did, we had a very limited budget, and we decided that we were going to not really take it seriously. So we tried to do some comedy elements with it. And, and then I think shortly thereafter, there was Amityville. I think Amityville for some reason made a
yes. And then
they made Amityville zombie movies now, and I don't know. It's so weird how they how these trends come about, because most horror fans generally have a certain a subgenre they stick with. You got people that like slasher films. I like zombie films myself. And people like monster, like monster type stuff, like werewolf or some weird radioactive monster or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I'm like, where did they get these trends from? Like sharks? I don't understand how that's really I get the Jaws. I mean, Jaws was terrifying. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I just don't understand. There's only so much you could really do with sharks. You know what I mean?
It was also prime response for Shark Week, of course.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I absolutely, I must admit, see, when I seen Sharknado, I was my jaw just dropped. I was like, what the fucking hell is this? What do you call it?
I liked it. I mean, it was so off the wall that you could not like it. It was so off the wall. But I did a movie. I was in a movie called Catnado, which it's every bit as probably bad as it sounds. And this was not a low budget. This was a no budget. So
I wouldn't even tell you what I think, Jason, when you said it there. The first thing that came in my head.
Yeah, I get killed by a cat. So yeah. Rather graphically on top of that, so that's what makes it even worse.
Were you trying to share it at the time?
Yeah. So it's part of an anthology, I guess. There's other, I guess, sections leading up to this. So I play a robber, and I rob a sweet little old cat lady, and so as retribution, the powers that be, gods, whatever, decides to punish me, but the Catnado shows up, then I get a cat that's flung at me, and it goes into my mouth and goes through my stomach. So yeah, it's every bit as ludicrous as it sounds. I honestly, I've not seen it. I don't know where it got released at. I don't know if it's on streaming. I don't know. It was done through a favor kind of thing. So yeah, I've not even seen it. So a lot of people are like, oh my God, where can you find it? I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen it myself. So I guess it's probably streaming somewhere. I'm pretty sure it's not on Shudder or anything like that. So I don't know.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, I don't know if it made quite that far, but the project we're currently working on now is we're working on a sort of a crime drama slasher horror type show, and it's called Midas Cove, and we got a really great cast that we have a lot of local folks that are working on it, and it's it's so much fun. We've been shooting on the weekends and things, and we're trying trying to do some like promotions and things for it, and we're planning on getting it streaming. We've got, I think, 5 episodes shot, or at least close to it, and so it's just a really cool. I don't want to reveal too much because we're still obviously in production stages, but I think it'll be really, really cool once it's definitely a unique take on the crime drama horror aspect of things. But I really think everybody's going to really enjoy it because we put a lot of work into it, and we're supposed to be shooting on a $15 million mansion, I think. So it's yeah, it's a big it's a big deal, and the last shoot that I was on, we actually got to shoot with a private jet and everything, and there was a gentleman that actually let us use his Dodge Viper, for one of the scenes and stuff. So I'm a car guy, so I was drooling over the Viper the whole time. So, it's so it's so awesome, and a lot of people I'm working with are people I've been friends with, and I've watched things they've been in and stuff. But it's great to actually work with them now.
Eric says IMB for the Catnado. But I just wanted to.
It's also on a network called streaming network called Binged and Beta Series, so it's out there.
But I just want to thank you, Jason, for coming on. I really, really appreciate it, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you.
We got to have you back on because this conversation is just the beginning. I could go. The way how I say we could go for hours on talking about this stuff if we wanted to.
Yeah,
like I said, this is definitely something I could go all day long. I watch so many bizarre, obscure movies, and my friends are like, "You're weird, dude. Like you watch like stuff that nobody's ever heard of." And I'm like, well, that's what I do. I mean, I love bad movies. So, being actually getting into acting and stuff, I don't mind that my movies suck. I mean, that's the thing, because I know the stuff that I've worked on is it's not been that great, but it's fun. I had fun doing it. So, but I appreciate you guys having me on, though. It's been a blast, and we definitely could do it again sometime.
Definitely. What to do? All right, you go first.
Actually, I should bring this up because maybe he should check this out. Is you should tell him also about how we've done. I guess you can say a little bit of acting, not in movies, but in audiobooks. You may want to bring that up.
Oh, yes. Well, I'll tell you what, it's your thing. You tell, Jason.
Yeah, so believe it or not, Lois and I, along with several other different paranormal podcast hosts, we actually took part in, I mean, I've been doing this now for a little while myself, but first time we actually took part in an audiobook series, which is, and you know what? This also became a movie. You're familiar with the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark books, are you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, great books. I'm sure you've seen the movie too, right?
Oh, yeah. Matter of fact, I was actually looking for a DVD earlier and ran across my copy. So
awesome. Well, over the years, in addition to the movie, first off, there's been a documentary made, which you can find on YouTube, about the books themselves. If you haven't seen it yet, great documentary. But in addition to those 2 films, over the years, they've actually been making these Scary Stories tribute books, which they have almost very similar drawings to what you see like with Stephen Gammell's illustrations, the original trilogy. It's not like that in all the books. Like, not all of them have the drawings, but they have almost equally scary stories, which some of them were also made, for an older audience as well. So it's not just books that were originally made for kids. Now they made some for older audiences. And there have been a few audiobooks that have been made, but among a few of them, I noticed there were no audiobooks that were made. And I actually contacted guys saying, hey, you guys ever going to make audiobooks like, with whatever? They said, well, we weren't planning on doing so. So I asked them, well, and I wasn't looking, I wasn't looking for money or anything. I just simply asked, well, is it possible that I can narrate them, just for the hell of it? And they gave me full permission for it. So I made a few audiobooks, but the most recent one, which is really a good tribute to the original trilogy, it was a book called Nightmare Soup. I don't know if you heard of that one, but they made a couple books already. And for some strange reason, they made an audiobook for the second book when it came out. And I contacted them too, like, are you guys ever going to do an audiobook for the first one? And the first time they got back, they said, well, we're going to try to work on it. After several months went by, nobody said anything. So I decided to contact them again saying, because I was really eager. Like, I just really wanted these audiobooks to be made. And they said it was not going to happen. So I asked the same thing. Is it possible that we could, that I could do, I could record it? And they said that was totally fine. But I decided to take it one step further because the previous audiobooks I've done was just me recording them. But for this one, I brought in Lois. I brought in all these other paranormal show hosts together for the first time as a combination of different narrators for this. And as a result of them, with what I've done with these audiobooks, if you're looking for like scary stories, I've made them scary as hell. So Lois and I have actually kind of taken part a few times in the horror genre ourselves. And we're actually real soon I'm going to be working on another audiobook series like this and bringing everybody together again.
I have people tell me all the time I've got a voice for radio. I tell them I got a face for radio too. So it's funny. I've actually had a few people that ask me, have you thought about doing audiobooks or like voiceovers and things? I'm like, I would love to. If somebody would approach me about it, I would love to, but I just never have. I've always done the acting part of things, I guess, because the fact I'll pretty much do just about anything anybody needs me to do, stunts or special effects or whatever. So, but
I guess,
I think something to do with some audiobooks that does sound fun actually. I like audiobooks myself.
Well, I guess I'm gonna have to. I'm sorry, Lois. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, honey.
Say, well, it looks like when I start putting this next project together, because what I'm doing with this next one is, I'm bringing some people back, but I'm also giving other paranormal podcast hosts who didn't get to have the chance to do the first one. We're actually going to be doing the third one instead, because since there was already an audiobook for the second one, it's not necessary to do the second book. So who knows? I might reach out to you and ask you to record one of the stories.
Oh yeah, sounds good to me. I would love it. Give me a chance to actually do some different voices and things, because I always goof around with my my friends and stuff, doing different accents and doing different little goofy things like changing the tone of my voice and stuff. So I'd actually like to try my hand at something like that. So I think it sounds fun.
We'll definitely keep in touch about it. I mean, it's gonna we can work something out, definitely. So right now I'm actually currently in the process of a different audiobook. This is one of the other ones it's just recorded by me. But once that one's done and I start getting everything together, like I said, I'll definitely contact you.
Yeah, no, by all means, that sounds awesome. I think it'd be fun to team up.
Awesome.
Yeah, and the videos too. Like in case you want to check them out yourself, like how it all works. Like for me, they're all on YouTube, so they're all free. There's no cost at all to them.
Okay.
I'll send you the link after the show, to obviously the audiobooks. But definitely, thank you so much. Thank you, my boy, for coming on. I do appreciate it. And thank you. I definitely want you back on. Definitely, Jason. So you're getting kidnapped.
We're going to have you also on another show that I co-host. Believe it or not, it's called Fear Fans, where one of my best friends and I we often talk about horror films, so we're gonna have to get you on that show too at some point.
Yeah. Like I said, I love doing these. I know I've been kind of slowly ramping up and doing more and more of them. So it's I really enjoy it, especially if you guys like enjoy hearing me rant about horror movies because I could do that all day.
Well, that's you kidnapped, by the way. So I'm coming for you.
Hey, I'm right here, so.
Awesome. But thank you so much, everyone. I'll send you the link, Eric. Thank you for everybody in the chat, and you all have a good weekend, whatever you are doing. And we'll talk to you real soon, guys.
Have a good night.
Bye.
See you all.
Bye.